Good morning everyone. Today we're going to be talking about which weapons you guys should invest in because a lot of people are kind of confused on whether they should be investing in a Wingguard weapon, an Exelio weapon, or an Eredim weapon. But before we jump into all of that, if you're new to the channel, I upload NGS content daily, so if you do play this game, I would really appreciate a subscribe as it really helps out the channel. Anyway, without further ado, let's begin the video. Alright, so to give you guys the visual representation, I do have all three weapons over here, and as you can see, I have fully invested into my Wingguard katana. However, just because I've done that does not mean you should do it. This is a very big disclaimer over here. I do not want you guys to full send a Wingguard katana or Wingguard anything. The reason I say this is because the Wingguards, although they are best in slot right now, they will not be best in slot next month, alright? So the main thing that's happening next month in October is our Exelio weapons are going to get an upgrade path or an evolution path where you will be able to upgrade this to potentially a 12-star rarity weapon. We don't know if it is going to be 12-star, but we just know that we will be able to upgrade the Exelio weapons into a new weapon. And this also applies to our Ecstasis armors as well. As you can see, I have full sended on all three of my Ecstasis armors over here because these are also guaranteed an evolution path and upgrade path in October. Now, do not worry about your fixes, your augments, your enhancements, even your weapon potentials and stuff like that. All of these things will transfer over, as they did talk about that in the previous NGS headline. So you don't need to worry about that. However, now that you're armed with this knowledge, the best weapon that I can recommend people to invest in is, of course, the Exelio weapon. The reason why I say this is because if you look at the market prices for this, they are going for a pretty reasonable price. Yes, it's still a couple $100,000, but at least we're not talking about millions. Like if we look at a Wingguard weapon over here, we're still talking about millions of Meseta without a fixa. So, you know, 2.7 million for a Wingguard katana versus 200,000 for an Exelio katana. So because of this, I recommend people to go with the Exelio weapon and invest into this weapon. Because as I said earlier, these are guaranteed an upgrade path. So if you fully invest in an Exelio weapon, if you fully invest in your Ecstasis armor, these are future-proof. They are guaranteed future-proof. You're going to be able to carry everything over, all of your augments, all of your fixes, your enhancement, all of the weapon potential unlocks, all of that stuff will carry over, including multi-weapons. So let's say that, you know, you're a traditional katana only braver and you multi-weapon a wired lance with your katana so that you can do the attack on Titan weapon action thing in order to get up to high places, then it's okay. You can multi-weapon that wired lance with your Exelio katana. Just make sure that the katana is the primary weapon or the main weapon so that when you multi-weapon them together, it's going to show up as an Exelio katana multi-weapon with a wired lance and not the other way around. If it's a wired lance multi-weapon with a katana, it's just not as good in my personal opinion, especially if you're using a main class braver. You definitely want your main weapon as the primary weapon, okay? So if you haven't invested into any weapons yet and you're just looking for a weapon to carry you over this month, Exelio weapon is the best way to do it, simply because it doesn't cost that much money in order to get one, or you can farm one yourself. You know, Nameless City is always there and it's not that difficult. You can just farm there. You're going to be doing it for your dailies and your weeklies anyway, so definitely make sure that you just play Nameless City, and if you get the right Exelio weapon, congratulations. If you don't, it's okay. There's a plenty of them on the marketplace. This weapon is not very popular right now because it's not very strong right now. However, again, in October, you're going to be able to upgrade it, so all of the investment that you spend on this weapon is not going to be wasted. So this is why I highly recommend the average player to go full send on the Exelio weapon as well as the Ecstasis armors, because these are the weapons that carry over. However, we cannot ignore the Eredim weapons. Now, why on earth does anyone care about the Eredim weapons? The reason why people might still care about the Eredim weapons is simply because, first of all, Eredim weapons are even cheaper than the Exelio weapons. You can see we're looking at 1,000 Meseta. Like, even if you look at an Eredim katana, you know, they are significantly cheaper. And on top of this, they're even easier to obtain through Nameless City. So when you're just plowing through Nameless City, killing all the mobs and stuff like that, you're going to get a ton of these Eredim weapons. And what's so special about these Eredim weapons? First of all, they come enhanced to level 60 by default already. Second of all, they also give you 3 EX augments by default. So you don't need to mess around with, oh, I need to transfer EX augments onto my Exelio weapon. I need to do this and that. It's not as complicated. Basically, with the Exelio weapon, this is a clean weapon. There is no enhancement, there are no augments, you have to do everything manually. Versus the Eredim weapons, they're already enhanced to 60, they come with 3 EX augments, and regardless of what you do, you're going to need an Eredim weapon in the end of the day in order to transfer these EX augments onto your Exelio weapon. So there is a lot of people talking about maybe I should just spend the money on the Eredim weapon instead and stick with that until we get the upgrade path with the Exelio weapon, see what the new upgrade is with the Exelio weapon, what it transforms into, see whether that weapon is any good or not. People who are a little bit more cautious and a little bit more conservative can just stick with the Eredim weapon because it's a low cost, low investment weapon. Because as I said earlier, you're going to be saving money on the enhancement because it's already enhanced to 60, and on top of that, you're also saving on the augments themselves because it has 3 EX augments already, so you just need to put an additional 4 LC augments or whatever augments you want, and it's good to go. However, that is not the selling point for the Eredim weapons. The selling point of the Eredim weapons is you're able to transfer all of your augments onto any weapon, regardless whether it's an old weapon or a new weapon. Let's say in October we get a new 12-star rarity weapon. Let's say the Exelio weapon can evolve into a 12-star rarity weapon, but on top of that, they also release the successor of the Wingard. So they also release another ultra rare 12-star rarity weapon. Well, good for you if you invested in an Eredim weapon, because you're going to be able to transfer all of your augments over here to any of those weapons. So you can pick, if you want to transfer all of these really high investment augments onto your new Wingard 2.0, you're going to be able to do that without an augment transfer pass. The same thing is going to apply with your Exelio weapon as well. So basically, the Eredim weapon is the safest bet to invest in, especially if you're planning to invest into endgame expensive augments. Then the Eredim weapon is the best choice in my personal opinion, because you do not need to waste any augment transfer passes to transfer these augments to any weapon, regardless of what happens in October, what happens in November. When new weapons come out, you're going to be able to transfer them to said new weapon without an augment transfer pass. That is a very, very big deal. Versus, let's say that you invest into an Exelio weapon. You build it up, you fully augment it, you transfer EX augments into it, all of that jazz. And you finally have like a best in slot Exelio weapon with a fix of 5, and you're like, yes, I'm ready for October. October rolls around, you evolve your Exelio weapon to Exelio 2.0. It's a 12-star rarity weapon now. It's really, really strong. That's great. However, they released the Wingard 2.0, which is the new best in slot. Then you're going to need to just accept the fact that, hey, I don't have the best in slot weapon, but it's strong enough for all the content that I want to do. So again, this kind of boils down to what type of player are you? If you're a player like myself where you're always going for the best in slot, you're always gear chasing, then Exelio weapon is probably not the weapon to invest in. However, if you're the average player and you play 1 hour a day, 2 hours a day, you don't have time to gear chase for these extremely rare weapons, and honestly, you probably don't even care about this, then just by all means full send Exelio weapon, you're going to be fine. But if you're on the fence, you're kind of a hardcore gamer, but you're also casual at the same time, you're the mid-core players, then maybe investing in an Eredim weapon with full endgame augments might be the play, because there's a ton of Eredim weapons on the market right now for dirt cheap. So you can probably look around and look for the perfect EX augments that work for your build. So as my build over here, I've got Tri-Shield, Tough Mind, as well as Enemy Felt PP Gain. Enemy Felt PP Gain technically should be a Lively HP. That would be my perfect trifecta. However, this is good enough considering that all of these suffixes are all X variants, which means I get extra HP and PP. So this is pretty much best in slot for me. It's really close, and it's probably the best I'm ever gonna get, because this was actually from a drop. I got incredibly lucky. And you've got all of these expensive augments over here, your An Addy Capsule, your Glad Gigas Master, Grand Gladius Soul, Lux Hal Finale. if you're planning to invest such high-end augments onto a weapon, then I would recommend maybe consider using the Eredim Weapon. Sure, it's not going to be best in slot, you're not going to be ultra strong for this month. However, you are safeguarding all of these expensive augments because later down the line, when we do get the new ultra rare weapon, you're going to be able to transfer all of these expensive augments to said weapon without an augment transfer pass. Now, if you do have augment transfer passes, then you can do whatever the hell you want because you can transfer them whenever. But just understand that the augment transfer passes are time gated and incredibly rare. You don't want to be spending your augment transfer passes all willy-nilly because the moment you run out, there is no real way to get more of these. You are at the mercy of Sega whenever they put out seasonal events, whenever they put out LTQs, timed events, limited time tasks. Most of the ways to obtain these augment transfer pass vouchers are locked behind time gates, or they're behind titles, and the titles are just like a one-time thing as well. So you definitely want to be a little bit stingy when it comes to these augment transfer passes. Alright, conclusion time. So if you want best in slot right now, sure, go with Wingard. However, just understand that you're only going to be best in slot this month. The moment next month rolls around, everyone's going to be able to evolve or upgrade their Exelio weapons as well as their Ecstasis armors. So understand that, hey, you might be best in slot now, but in a month's time, you will no longer be best in slot, which is why I do not recommend people to full send on a Wingard weapon right now. Exelio Weapon, if you're a casual player, Exelio Weapon is the play. Definitely full send an Exelio Weapon if you're a casual player because you are not chasing best in slot. You just want a weapon that is going to be good, is going to be meta, and is just going to be good enough for all the content that you want to do except for like the top 1% content. To be honest, even the top 1% content such as Darkfall's Dally and Rank 2, with an Exelio Weapon, you're still going to be fine. It's still doable. So even though I put quotation marks good enough, it's actually a very solid weapon already, alright? It's just not best in slot. As long as you guys are okay with that, okay with not having the best in slot, but having a very strong and decent weapon, it's perfectly fine and you're gonna be good with an Exelio weapon. Now for the people who are on the fence, you want best in slot and you want to invest heavily in augments, well, then the Eredim Weapon is the best choice to go for because again, all of the augments that you invest in your Eredim Weapon will be transferable to any future weapon without an augment transfer pass. So that is why if you are planning to go really crazy on the augments and get the best in slot augments, get that 280+% potency, then yes, definitely invest in an Eredim Weapon with the perfect trifecta of your EX augments. And since these weapons are dropping like candy and there's a ton of them on the market for dirt cheap, you know, you're going to be able to find and search and get the perfect weapon. Just do not care about the fixas because fixas on your Eredim Weapon will not transfer over. Only the augments transfer over, alright? So just understand that only the augments and nothing else will transfer over. So when you enhance the weapon to +90, when you unlock its weapon potential, when you get a high fixa, those things will not transfer over to your new weapon. Only the augments do. Alright, so if you're on the fence but you're hyper investing into augments and you don't want to waste your augment transfer pass because those are ultra rare, you can go with the Eredim weapons. That way, regardless of what happens next month, whether the Exelio Weapons 2.0 is going to be best in slot, or we're going to get the new Wingard 2.0, or maybe both of them get released at the same time, well, you're going to be safe because you can transfer your augments to either weapon without an augment transfer pass. So the safest bet is going to be, of course, the Eredim Weapon. However, for the majority of players who just don't care about best in slot, Exelio weapons are the way to go. Special thanks to all the members for supporting the channel. It really means a lot to me. Thank you again. But yeah, that's all I wanted to cover in today's video. Hopefully you guys found it helpful. If you did, I would appreciate a like and a subscribe, and I'll see you guys in tomorrow's video. Bye.